Hello there, and welcome to Whispers of Earth, the place where we let curiosity wander without a timer and give big questions the time they deserve. This isn't the sort of space for rushing through bullet points or hurrying to the end.
What if everything you see right now, your hands, the room around you, the very sky above, isn't what it seems? What if all of it is part of a simulation, a program running so smoothly that you've never noticed the code behind the curtain? It sounds like a story pulled from science fiction, the kind of idea you'd expect from a late-night movie or a video game. But this question has crept out of fiction and into the realm of philosophy and science. It sits quietly at the edge of our thoughts. Is reality truly real? Or is it a stage set so perfectly that we cannot tell the difference? Imagine sitting in a theater, watching a play so vivid, so carefully lit and performed, that you forget it's only a performance. That's what this question suggests. Life as a performance designed by something or someone beyond us. For thousands of years, humans have wrestled with this suspicion. Plato's allegory of the cave imagined people chained in darkness, mistaking shadows for reality. In modern times, films like The Matrix gave us the metaphor of wires and virtual worlds. Today, thinkers like philosopher Nick Bostrom argue seriously that the chance we're living in a base reality, the true raw universe, is actually small. If advanced civilizations exist, capable of running simulations indistinguishable from reality, why wouldn't they? And if they would, then what are the odds that we just happen to be the few lucky beings living outside the simulation instead of inside one? It's a question that blends logic with unease. Because if this is all a simulation, then the rules we live by, physics, biology, even time, may not be as fixed as we think. They might be parameters, adjustable settings in a program. That thought is unsettling, but it's also strangely comforting. Because if reality is programmed, then maybe it has meaning, maybe it has intention, maybe someone placed us here for a reason. And so, as we step into this journey together, let's pause. Look around you. Touch something near. Listen to the sound of your breath. It feels real, doesn't it? Solid, grounded. But then ask yourself, what if this feeling of reality is exactly what makes the simulation so perfect? Every simulation, no matter how advanced, carries the risk of small glitches, tiny cracks in the illusion. And if our reality is a simulation, then perhaps we've already glimpsed them. Think of déjà vu, that eerie sensation when a moment feels like it's repeating, as if you've seen it before in exactly the same way. Scientists explain it as a quirk of memory, but in the language of simulation, it feels like a skipped frame, a replay in the program. Or consider the strange precision of mathematics. Why is it that the universe can be described so perfectly with numbers, equations, and geometry? Galileo called mathematics the language of nature. But what if it's not just a language? What if it's literally the code that underlies the system, the programming syntax holding reality together? Even physics itself offers hints. Quantum mechanics, with its particles that behave like probabilities until observed, resembles the rendering of a video game. In games, details aren't generated until the player looks at them. Trees appear only when you turn your head. Distant mountains sharpen only when you move closer. Could it be the same with reality? Does the universe load itself only when we observe it? Then there are the cosmic coincidences, the fine-tuned constants of physics, the exact balance of forces that allow stars to burn, atoms to bond, and life to exist, are so precise that scientists struggle to explain them as chance. If one number were even slightly off, the universe would collapse into chaos. In a simulation, though, these constants wouldn't be accidents. They'd be settings, carefully chosen to create a stable, livable world. You can feel the tension here. On one side, science offers natural explanations. On the other, the simulation idea whispers that maybe those explanations are part of the program itself. When you look closely enough, cracks in the code might appear. Not proof, not certainty, but hints. The kind that keep us awake at night, wondering whether the world we trust is really just a screen flickering in the background of something far greater. For centuries, philosophers have toyed with the idea that reality might not be what it seems. Long before computers existed, minds like Descartes wrestled with the question, how do I know that anything outside my own thoughts is real? His famous line, "I think, therefore I am," was his anchor, a single certainty in a sea of doubt. Plato imagined prisoners in a cave, mistaking shadows for truth. Buddhism spoke of Maya, the veil of illusion that covers the world. Across cultures and ages, thinkers have sensed that reality could be more like a mask than a mirror. Today, technology has given those old suspicions a new frame, the simulation. Philosophers now ask, what if reality is not just an illusion, but a programmed one? Nick Bostrom, a professor at Oxford, brought this question into modern debate with his simulation argument. It's not just speculation, it's logic. His reasoning goes like this. At some point, a civilization could become so advanced that it has the computing power to run simulations of entire worlds, down to the thoughts and feelings of individuals inside them. If that's possible, they might run not one simulation, but millions. If millions of simulated worlds exist for every real one, then statistically, the odds are that we're in a simulation right now, not in base reality. It's a chilling but strangely reasonable thought. Like realizing that in a massive casino, the deck is almost certainly stacked. And here's where programmers enter the picture. Imagine a civilization thousands or millions of years ahead of us. Their technology would be so far beyond our comprehension that it might look like magic or godhood. To them, running a world like ours could be as simple as pressing Run Program. But that raises an uncomfortable question. If they are the programmers, what does that make us? Characters in their simulation, experiments to study, or stories to entertain. The philosophers ask, what is real? The programmers ask, what can be built? Together, their questions lead us here, to the unsettling possibility that our lives are being lived inside someone else's design. If this world is a simulation, then somewhere beneath the surface of atoms and stars, there should be a grid, a structure, a digital skeleton. In video games, it's easy to see. Walk too far in one direction and the world ends. Look closely enough at the graphics and you'll notice the pixels, the smallest building blocks of the illusion. Now think about our universe. Physics already tells us that reality has a smallest unit. Space and time, once thought to be continuous, may in fact come in discrete quanta, tiny packets beyond which there is no smaller measurement. This is the Planck scale, the tiniest division of distance, time, and energy. Like pixels on a screen, the Planck scale suggests that the fabric of the universe has resolution. Even stranger, scientists have proposed that the universe might resemble a hologram. According to the holographic principle, everything we experience in 3 dimensions could actually be encoded on a 2-dimensional surface, like an image projected outward. Imagine living inside a cosmic theater where the movie screen surrounds you so completely you forget the screen exists at all. And then there's the cosmic speed limit, the speed of light. Nothing can go faster. Why? One way to think about it is like the refresh rate of a game. The simulation can only update reality so quickly, and the speed of light is the boundary of that update. Beyond it, the system can't keep up. Even quantum physics, with its strange rule that particles exist as probabilities until observed, echoes digital rendering. In a simulation, there's no need to render what no one is looking at. Reality appears only when consciousness demands it. Until then, it waits in a cloud of possibility. When you take all this together, physics begins to sound less like a description of a natural world and more like the rulebook of a program. The equations are the code, the constants are the settings, and we are the players, walking through a universe made of pixels too small for the eye to see. If we are inside a simulation, then someone or something built it. That thought alone is enough to shake the foundations of how we see ourselves. Who could these architects be? One possibility is that they are simply future humans. Imagine our own descendants, thousands or millions of years ahead, with computing power so vast, it makes today's technology look like children's toys. They might simulate their past, our present, as a way of studying history. To them, we are an immersive research project, a living archive. Another possibility, beings far beyond human, civilizations so advanced they've reached what scientists call post-biological. Instead of flesh and blood, they exist as digital minds, running on endless networks. For them, creating a universe could be no different than us running a piece of software. And then there is the possibility of a creator that doesn't fit any category we know. A cosmic intelligence, a consciousness outside of time and space. To us, it would look like a god. To itself, it might simply be an explorer, planting seeds of reality to see what grows. But why would the architects build us? That question echoes through every corner of this idea. Are we here for entertainment? Like characters in an unimaginably sophisticated game? Are we here for education? A training ground for future minds to learn from our struggles? Or are we here for an experiment, to see how life, culture, and consciousness evolve under different rules? Even in our own world, we do this. We build simulations of weather, of traffic, of economies. We create models to test outcomes before they happen. And sometimes, we create simulations simply for the joy of it. Video games where digital beings live and act, unaware of the player behind the screen. If we already simulate tiny versions of reality, isn't it possible that we ourselves are the tiny version, nested inside a far greater one? And here's the haunting twist. If our world is a simulation, it could be just one of many. A stack of universes, one inside another, each created by the one above it. We might be living in the middle of an infinite tower of simulations, never able to climb out, never able to see who built the very first one. If we are inside a simulation, then someone or something built it. That thought alone is enough to shake the foundations of how we see ourselves. Who could these architects be? One possibility is that they are simply future humans. Imagine our own descendants, thousands or millions of years ahead, with computing power so vast, it makes today's technology look like children's toys. They might simulate their past, our present, as a way of studying history. To them, we are an immersive research project, a living archive. Another possibility, beings far beyond human, civilizations so advanced they've reached what scientists call post-biological. Instead of flesh and blood, they exist as digital minds, running on endless networks. For them, creating a universe could be no different than us running a piece of software. And then there is the possibility of a creator that doesn't fit any category we know, a cosmic intelligence, a consciousness outside of time and space. To us, it would look like a god. To itself, it might simply be an explorer, planting seeds of reality to see what grows. But why would the architects build us? That question echoes through every corner of this idea. Are we here for entertainment? Like characters in an unimaginably sophisticated game? Are we here for education? A training ground for future minds to learn from our struggles? Or are we here for an experiment, to see how life, culture, and consciousness evolve under different rules? Even in our own world, we do this. We build simulations of weather, of traffic, of economies. We create models to test outcomes before they happen. And sometimes, we create simulations simply for the joy of it. Video games where digital beings live and act, unaware of the player behind the screen. If we already simulate tiny versions of reality, isn't it possible that we ourselves are the tiny version, nested inside a far greater one? And here's the haunting twist. If our world is a simulation, it could be just one of many. A stack of universes, one inside another, each created by the one above it. We might be living in the middle of an infinite tower of simulations, never able to climb out, never able to see who built the very first one. If reality is programmed, then sometimes the code might flicker. Some of the strangest experiences in human life feel like little windows into something beyond. Take near-death experiences. Across cultures, people who come close to death report strikingly similar visions, tunnels of light, voices, a sense of being lifted out of the body. Are these only brain chemistry? Or could they be transitions between levels of simulation, moments when the program briefly resets? Or consider the phenomenon of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem too precise to be random. You think of a friend you haven't spoken to in years, and they call you that very day. The rational mind says it's chance. But in a simulation, such coincidences might be coded events, subtle signals from the architects woven into the fabric of our experience. There's also the mystery of the Mandela effect, memories shared by large groups of people that don't match recorded history. Some remember a movie line differently, or swear a brand's logo looked another way. Could these be glitches, like files swapped in an update of the system? Even in physics, we find anomalies. Cosmic rays sometimes strike detectors in ways that look like bursts of raw data. Computer scientists have even speculated that certain patterns in particle physics might reveal error-correcting codes, the same kind of mathematical structures that programmers use to keep digital systems stable. All of these clues are not proof. They live in the space between science and story, between skepticism and belief. Yet they persist, nagging at the edges of our understanding. It's like living in a perfectly built house where every now and then you hear a faint hum in the walls or see the lights flicker just slightly. You can ignore it. You can explain it away. But deep down, a part of you wonders, is the system showing itself? There's a reason so many scientists compare the universe to a kind of grand computation. Math doesn't just describe reality, it seems to govern it. Everywhere you look, patterns appear. The spiral of a galaxy mirrors the spiral of a seashell. Snowflakes form with perfect symmetry. The orbits of planets follow equations that can be written on a single page. Why does nature align so perfectly with mathematics? Eugene Wigner once called it the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. Why should numbers invented in human minds match the structure of the cosmos so precisely? Unless perhaps the universe itself is fundamentally mathematical, a coded system where equations are not just tools, but the underlying architecture. Think about video games. The world inside is built entirely from numbers, coordinates, vectors, probabilities. Characters don't walk. They follow mathematical paths rendered as movement. Rivers don't flow. They're generated by algorithms that simulate fluid dynamics. Now compare that with our world. Electrons orbit atoms according to quantized rules. Light moves in predictable waves. Even chance has order. Probability distributions that never fail. It feels less like chaos and more like a program running without error. And then there's the digital nature of information. At the smallest scale, matter is not continuous. It comes in discrete packets. Energy is quantized. Time might be too. It's as though the universe is built not from clay, but from bits. Ones and zeros arranged in endless complexity. If that's true, then everything, from galaxies to your heartbeat, is part of a vast equation being solved in real time. And consciousness, your awareness of all this, could be the most intricate calculation of all. So when you see a sunset, or hear music, or fall in love, you may be experiencing not just life, but the beauty of code, a masterpiece written in mathematics, designed to feel real, designed to feel alive. If reality is a simulation, then perhaps the real secret isn't the physics outside of us, but the awareness inside us. Consciousness is the greatest riddle of all. Brains are made of matter, neurons firing tiny electrical signals. But from that material process emerges something immaterial, the experience of being you, the colors you see, the emotions you feel, the private voice narrating your life. No equation in physics fully explains them. Some scientists argue that consciousness is an emergent property, a side effect of complexity. But others whisper that maybe consciousness is the point. Maybe the simulation was built not to test physics, not to simulate rocks or rivers, but to generate awareness, to see what happens when sparks of experience are ignited in matter. If that's true, then every thought you have, every dream, every act of imagination might be more than a personal experience. It could be data. The program could be watching, learning, adapting based on the stories unfolding in your mind. Imagine a simulation designed to test morality. How do conscious beings treat each other when they believe their world is real? Do they cooperate or compete? Do they build civilizations of compassion or tear themselves apart in greed? From this perspective, consciousness isn't a glitch in the code. It's the prize. The reason the simulation exists at all, and the test is ongoing. Every choice you make ripples outward, not just in your life, but perhaps in the evaluation of the architects themselves. It's a humbling thought. Your awareness may be both gift and responsibility. Because if the simulation is watching, then the way you live might be the answer to the very question it was programmed to ask. If we are living inside a simulation, then what about the beings who built it? Are they living in the true reality? Or are they inside a simulation too? This leads to the dizzying idea of nested realities. Worlds inside worlds, simulations stacked one upon another like mirrors facing each other. Just as we create video games that contain characters unaware of the player, our creators might themselves be characters in someone else's design. It's a loop with no clear bottom. Imagine a chain. We simulate a world inside a computer. In that world, intelligent beings grow advanced enough to simulate another, and inside that, another and another. Each reality believes it is base reality, never realizing it's just another layer. Think about dreams. You've had nights where you dream, then wake into another dream, and only later wake into your real bed. In the moment, each layer felt true. What if life itself works the same way? Some scientists argue that if simulations are possible, then the chain is inevitable. It wouldn't stop at one. There would be countless worlds, most of them simulated, only one of them truly original. The odds that we're at the very bottom, the base layer, shrink almost to nothing. And here's the unsettling part. If realities are stacked, we may never know which layer we're in. We may live and die inside the program, never glimpsing what lies above. Unless, of course, the architects decide to reveal themselves. Unless they leave clues, a kind of signature in the code that says, "You are not the first, and you will not be the last." If life is a simulation, then the most haunting question is why? Why build an entire universe, fill it with galaxies, stars, and living beings just to let it run? One possibility is entertainment. To the architects, our reality could be the ultimate game. Every triumph, every heartbreak, every story unfolding here might be their version of drama, a theater more compelling than anything they could write. Another possibility is science. We simulate weather, ecosystems, and economies to understand how they evolve. Perhaps our creators simulate universes to study how civilizations rise, how intelligence behaves, how morality develops. From their perspective, we are a cosmic experiment. Our wars and our peace treaties, our inventions and our failures, all part of the data set. There's also the idea of preservation. Maybe the architects faced extinction and built simulations to preserve themselves. We could be echoes of their minds, copied into a safe digital world, unaware that we are backups of a forgotten civilization. Or perhaps the purpose is training, Earth as a testing ground, where souls or minds are placed to learn lessons, to grow through struggle, to prepare for another stage beyond this one. Every difficulty we face might be deliberate, a challenge designed to teach resilience, compassion, or wisdom. And then there's the simplest answer. Maybe there is no grand reason. Maybe the simulation was built for curiosity or even boredom. As humans, we create games and simulations just because. Why assume beings far more advanced wouldn't do the same? Yet deep inside, we feel the weight of purpose. We want to believe our lives are more than accidents, that the simulation, if it exists, was created with meaning. That longing itself might be part of the design, a built-in drive pushing us to seek, to question, to grow. If our universe is simulated, then perhaps the evidence is written not only in atoms, but across the vast canvas of the cosmos. Astronomers often marvel at how fine-tuned the universe appears to be. The strength of gravity, the charge of the electron, the expansion rate of the cosmos. Each one rests within a razor-thin range that allows life to exist. Shift any of them even slightly, and stars would never form, planets would never stabilize, and life would never awaken. To some, this is coincidence. To others, it's divine design. But through the lens of the simulation hypothesis, it looks like parameters, settings chosen to allow the game to run smoothly. Just like programmers set rules for how fast characters can move or how bright a virtual sun should shine, Perhaps the architects set the cosmic constants of our universe. Then there's the cosmic speed limit, the speed of light. Why should there be a maximum velocity? In a simulation, limits prevent the system from breaking. They keep computation manageable. The speed of light may not be a law of nature, but a safeguard in the code. Even the strange phenomenon of cosmic inflation, the rapid expansion of the universe in its earliest instant, resembles a system booting up. A sudden flash of data, an initialization sequence, and then everything begins. And what about the fact that the universe is expanding faster and faster, as though space itself is stretching outward? Could that be the system allocating more memory, creating new space as needed? When we gaze at the stars, we see beauty. But beneath the beauty, perhaps we are looking at the scaffolding of the program itself, the design choices of whoever wrote the code of reality. Every great simulation carries the risk of imperfection, small moments where the illusion trembles. What if some of our strangest human experiences are nothing more than glitches in the system? Think about time slips, stories where people swear they walked into a place that seemed to belong to another century, only for it to vanish in an instant. Skeptics call it imagination. But in a simulated reality, it could be a rendering error, a piece of old data briefly flickering back to life. Consider the Mandela effect, the collective misremembering of facts. Millions once believed Nelson Mandela died in prison decades before he actually did. Others recall logos, movie lines, or events that history says never happened. Could these be corrections in the code? Patch updates that overwrite the past, leaving behind echoes of the earlier version? Even dreams feel suspicious at times. Entire worlds appear while we sleep, places we've never been, people we've never met. Neuroscience says it's random firing in the brain. But what if dreams are moments when the program loosens its grip, when the simulation lets our minds wander through hidden layers of reality? Some computer scientists suggest that if our universe is simulated, we should expect rare but unmistakable errors, mathematical anomalies, unexplained patterns in data, sudden events that defy natural law. To us, they would feel like miracles or mysteries. To the architects, they would be nothing more than bugs in the system. It makes you wonder, every time you see something impossible, every time you feel the world pause for just a second, are you witnessing the program stutter? Are you glimpsing the truth beneath the surface, that this reality is not flawless because it was built? If there is any place where reality feels least real, it's in the strange world of quantum physics. At the smallest scales, particles don't behave like tiny marbles. They behave like waves of probability, existing everywhere at once until someone observes them. The very act of looking changes their state. Scientists call this the observer effect. But why should the universe care whether we're watching or not? In a simulation, the answer is simple. The system only renders detail when the player focuses on it. A video game doesn't generate the inside of every house on the map until you open the door. Why waste resources? In the same way, the universe may not bother to collapse the wave until consciousness demands it. Then there's quantum entanglement, where two particles can become linked so that a change in one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But in a simulation, it makes perfect sense. When you copy two objects in software, they remain connected by the same line of code. Distance doesn't matter because both are managed by the same system. Even the randomness of quantum mechanics, the roll of dice at the heart of matter, might not be random at all. It could be pseudo-random, the kind of number generation used in every digital system. To us, it looks unpredictable. To the architects, it's just the algorithm they chose. What scientists see as bizarre and inexplicable, the simulation theory reframes as ordinary. Quantum puzzles are not glitches in reality. They're features of the code. And if that's true, then every time we split an atom, every time we run an experiment in quantum labs, we're not just studying physics. We may be peering into the programming of existence itself. If we are living in a simulation, then somewhere, beyond our stars, beyond even our imagination, there must be a computer running it all. But what kind of machine could possibly handle the infinite complexity of an entire universe? Not the laptops on our desks. Not even the supercomputers that crunch climate models and map the human genome. No, this would have to be something beyond comprehension, a cosmic computer operating on principles we can barely glimpse. Some scientists speculate about quantum computers so advanced that they could simulate every atom, every photon, every possibility, all at once. Others imagine technologies that manipulate space-time itself, bending dimensions to store and process endless information. Think about how far we've come in just a few decades. The phone in your pocket is more powerful than the computers that guided astronauts to the moon. Now imagine 1,000,000 years of progress. Imagine a civilization harnessing not just electricity, but the energy of stars, the structure of black holes, the very fabric of the universe. To them, running a universe might be no harder than running a simulation of weather is for us today. They could create countless worlds, each with different settings, one where life never arises, one where civilizations collapse quickly, one like ours, brimming with complexity. And if their machine is powerful enough, the characters inside, us, would never know. The simulation would be seamless, detailed to the last heartbeat, the last photon of light. But here's the twist. What if the universe is the computer? What if space, matter, and energy are not the contents of the simulation, but the hardware itself? Every star a processor, every particle a data point, the entire cosmos computing itself into existence. It sounds impossible. Yet when you look at the night sky, when you see galaxies spinning like hard drives in the dark, it almost feels like the universe is not just alive but calculating. If our lives are part of a simulation, then what does that mean for free will? Are we truly choosing our paths, or are we simply following the script written into the code? In everyday life, we feel the weight of choice. You decide what to eat for dinner, what job to take, who to love, when to speak. Each decision feels like yours, But step back and questions appear. Were you really free to choose? Or were you guided by your genetics, your upbringing, the environment around you? Now layer on the simulation idea. If reality is programmed, then perhaps our choices are not spontaneous acts, but outcomes calculated by algorithms. Each thought, each action, a line of code running exactly as written. In that sense, free will could be the most convincing illusion of all. And yet, there's another possibility. Maybe the architects designed the simulation specifically to test free will. Perhaps the code allows unpredictability, genuine decision-making, the possibility of growth. After all, what's the point of running a world where every character is just a puppet? The real drama comes from autonomy, from watching beings make real choices in uncertain circumstances. Even in video games, players value freedom. We want to believe our actions matter, that our decisions shape the outcome. Maybe the simulation is the same, set up with boundaries and rules. But inside those rules, freedom is real. The question cuts to the heart of human existence. Are we authors of our lives, or are we following a script? Maybe it's both. Maybe the program provides the stage, the laws, the physics, but within that framework, we improvise the story. If that's true, then our lives are not meaningless code. They are contributions to a greater narrative, each choice adding texture to the simulation, each act of will echoing into the data that the architects, or perhaps the universe itself, is waiting to see. If this is a simulation, then what happens when we die? Is death an ending, or is it simply a logout screen, a transition to somewhere beyond the program? For most of human history, death has been the greatest mystery. Religions promised afterlives, heavens, reincarnations. Skeptics said it was nothing but silence. But in the context of a simulation, another possibility emerges. Death as data transfer. Think of how we handle characters in our own digital worlds. When an avatar dies in a game, does the consciousness vanish? Or is it saved on a server, ready to be reloaded, repurposed, or even moved to another simulation? Could our awareness work the same way, stored beyond what we call reality, waiting to reemerge? Near-death experiences add fuel to this question. People report floating above their bodies, seeing lights, encountering presences that feel beyond earthly description. Neuroscience explains it as brain chemistry. But in a simulation, it could be what happens when the program momentarily disconnects from its character. A peek behind the curtain. It's also possible that death is simply the end of the program for us, the moment our code stops running. Yet even then, we might not vanish entirely. Our actions, choices, and memories may be preserved, like files archived in a system. Perhaps nothing is truly lost, only stored in ways we cannot perceive. This perspective changes how we see mortality. Death may not be a terrifying abyss, but a transition, a reboot, a return to the source of the simulation. And if that's true, then the real question isn't what happens after we die, but why the architects designed death at all. Was it to keep the story moving, to teach urgency, to make us treasure the fleeting nature of life inside the simulation? Maybe mortality isn't a flaw, it's a feature, coded in to give our existence weight. If this world is simulated, why is there so much pain? Why would any architect design hunger, war, disease, or heartbreak into the code? At first glance, suffering feels like proof against the simulation hypothesis. Why would anyone choose to create a world so full of struggle? But perhaps that question itself reveals something deeper. Imagine a simulation designed only for comfort. No loss, no failure, no pain. Would it feel real? Would it have meaning? Or would it be as empty as a game with no challenge, a story with no conflict? Suffering gives life contrast. It shapes us, tests us, and pushes us to grow. In storytelling, every hero faces trials. Maybe in the simulation, we are the heroes of our own narratives, and hardship is the code that forces transformation. Even in our own technology, we create simulations filled with difficulty. Flight simulators present storms and engine failures, not sunny skies. Strategy games throw obstacles at players to test skill and creativity. Why assume the architects of our reality would be any different? There's another possibility. Perhaps suffering isn't designed at all, but a side effect of freedom. If the simulation is meant to allow real choice, then cruelty and injustice must be possible too. A program that guarantees only good outcomes isn't a world, it's a puppet show. True freedom means risk. Still, suffering raises profound questions. If we are being tested, who is grading us? If we are being trained, for what purpose? If we are being observed, is our pain entertainment, or is it data? Whatever the answer, one truth remains. Suffering shapes the simulation into something that feels achingly real. It forces us to wonder, to search, to cling to meaning even in the darkest hours. And maybe that was always the point. If this is all a simulation, is there any way to prove it? Or are we forever trapped in uncertainty, questioning shadows on the wall of our digital cave? Scientists have proposed bold experiments. Some suggest looking for pixelation in space-time, tiny graininess in the structure of reality, like the pixels on a screen. If space and time are continuous, no such limit should exist. But if they are discrete, like digital bits, then one day our instruments may detect the grid beneath it all. Others search in cosmic rays, particles that strike Earth from deep space. If reality is simulated, maybe high-energy rays would reveal anomalies, like a video glitch in the sky. Some researchers claim they've already found hints of such irregularities, though nothing is confirmed. Computer scientists have speculated about mathematical fingerprints hidden in physics. Just as programmers embed error-correcting codes into software, perhaps our universe contains the same kind of patterns, ensuring stability in the system. If we find them, it could be a clue that reality is engineered. And then there's the possibility of direct contact. If the architects wanted us to know, they could leave a signature in DNA, a hidden message in mathematics, or even a signal embedded in the cosmic background radiation. Perhaps the evidence is already here, waiting for us to notice. But the real challenge isn't finding proof, it's recognizing it. After all, how do you prove you're in a simulation while still inside it? Any evidence we discover might itself be part of the program, part of the design, which leads to a haunting possibility. The architects may have coded us never to find out. The system could be built to keep its own nature hidden, allowing curiosity but denying certainty. Proof might be the one thing the program will never allow us to have. If our world is simulated, then somewhere out there are the architects who built it. And that raises an unsettling question. What kind of morality do they follow? When we run simulations of our own, whether modeling climate, training AI, or playing video games, we rarely think about the characters inside. In a city-building game, thousands of simulated lives flicker in and out of existence, and we don't mourn them. They're just data. But what if the architects see us the same way? Are we simply lines of code, disposable experiments in their pursuit of knowledge or entertainment? Or do they see us as real, as beings whose joys and sorrows matter, even if we exist inside their system? If they are indifferent, then our struggles mean nothing beyond the data they produce. But if they are compassionate, perhaps they watch us with care, nudging us gently, weaving meaning into the simulation so that we don't drown in despair. There's also the darker possibility that our suffering is the point. Just as we sometimes simulate battles, disasters, or crises to test systems, maybe the architects created this world to study how conscious beings respond under pressure. To them, our wars and heartbreaks could be lessons, not tragedies. And then comes the heaviest question of all. Do they have the right? If they gave us life, if they built this simulation, do they own us? Or does consciousness itself grant freedom, no matter who created it? It's easy to slip into fear here, to imagine cold programmers watching us like lab rats. But there's another way to see it. Perhaps the architects are not distant tyrants but gardeners, cultivating a world, giving it space to grow, allowing it to surprise even them. In the end, the ethics of the architects may remain forever hidden. But how we imagine them says something about us, about our hopes, our fears, and the way we treat the lives we create in our own simulations. Sometimes the best way to understand a creator is to look at what they create. And when we look at ourselves, the pattern is hard to ignore. We build simulations, too. Every year, our digital worlds grow more realistic. Video games generate cities where millions of characters live, work, and talk. Artificial intelligence learns to respond, to adapt, even to mimic emotion. Virtual reality lets us step inside environments so convincing that our brains accept them as real. If we, in just a few decades of computing, can build simulations that fool our senses, what could a civilization millions of years ahead of us create? To them, a universe like ours might be a weekend project, a classroom exercise, or even an art form. And here's the eerie thought. What if our drive to create simulations is not accidental? What if it's a reflection of the very nature of reality itself? Like children imitating their parents, maybe we build simulated worlds because we ourselves were built inside one. It's recursion. We make digital people, and one day they may grow advanced enough to make their own simulations. Layers upon layers, worlds inside worlds, each mirroring the one above. Already, scientists run models of universes on supercomputers, testing how galaxies form, how black holes grow, how life might arise. We do this because it's the only way to answer questions too big for direct observation. But isn't that exactly what our own architects might be doing? So when you design a character in a game, when you watch AI learn, when you slip on a headset and forget the room around you, you're not just playing. You may be glimpsing the logic of the very reality you live in. Our creations might not just be entertainment. They may be hints, echoes of the truth that we are, in some sense, doing what was done to us. If reality is programmed, then somewhere beneath the surface of daily life there may be a script, an underlying story that guides the flow of events. Think about myths and religions. Across cultures, separated by oceans and centuries, people have told eerily similar stories. Floods that cleanse the world, heroes who descend into darkness and return transformed, gods who teach humanity fire, writing, or law. Why do these motifs repeat over and over? Perhaps they are cultural echoes, or perhaps they are fragments of the simulation's script, patterns embedded in our collective memory, stories written into the code itself. Even in personal life, the script sometimes shows itself. You meet a stranger by chance who later changes your entire future. You find yourself in the right place at the right time, as though guided by an invisible hand. Was it luck? Or the program nudging you forward? Some philosophers suggest that fate and free will are not opposites, but companions. The simulation sets the framework, the milestones, the arcs of story that must occur. Within that framework, we improvise. Just as a video game has a main quest, but countless side choices, maybe our lives are both scripted and free. And then there are numbers, the mysterious fingerprints of the code. People see repeating digits like 1111 on a clock and feel a strange significance. Mathematicians marvel at constants like pi and phi, numbers that appear everywhere from galaxies to seashells. What if these aren't coincidences at all, but the raw syntax of the program, bleeding into our perception? The idea is unsettling, but also strangely beautiful. To think that our lives might be part of a grand story, woven not by accident, but by design. A story written in equations and myths, in coincidences and choices, in laughter and loss. If reality is a script, then every one of us is both character and co-author, living out the story, but also shaping it with the way we choose to play our part. In every video game, there are boundaries. Walk too far, and you reach an invisible wall. Sail too long in one direction, and the ocean repeats. The world feels endless until you touch its edges. What about our universe? Astronomers say it too has boundaries. though they are not walls of stone, but horizons of light. The observable universe is limited. Beyond a certain distance, light hasn't had time to reach us since the Big Bang. No matter how powerful our telescopes, we cannot see beyond this cosmic curtain. But what if that horizon is more than physics? What if it's the edge of the simulation, a rendering boundary beyond which no data exists? Consider the night sky. Stars appear scattered, yet distributed with suspicious uniformity, like pixels filling a screen. When cosmologists map the largest structures of the universe, they find filaments of galaxies strung together like a cosmic web. Some see beauty, others see the pattern of computation, nodes and connections like circuits on a motherboard. Even the mysteries of dark matter and dark energy, which together make up 95% of the universe yet remain invisible, raise questions. Are they real substances or placeholders in the code, background processes that make the system stable but were never meant to be observed directly? The unsettling part is that we may never reach the edge. Like characters trapped inside a perfect simulation, our instruments and laws of physics might be coded to keep us inside, to prevent us from breaking the illusion. And yet, deep down, explorers and scientists still push outward. Perhaps the desire to explore is not just instinct, but programming, a feature of the system urging us toward the edges, toward the curtain, toward the moment we might glimpse the truth. If our reality is a simulation, then someone, somewhere, might be watching us. The thought is both thrilling and unsettling. We watch our own simulations. When we create digital worlds, we monitor them, whether it's scientists observing climate models or gamers following their characters. Sometimes we interfere, nudging events. Other times, we let the simulation run on its own. Could the same be true for us? Maybe the architects occasionally step in, small miracles, coincidences too perfect to explain, flashes of insight that change history. To us, they feel like divine intervention. To them, they might be nothing more than adjusting the variables, patching the code. Some traditions have always spoken of watchers, gods, angels, ancestors, or spirits looking down from above. Are these stories symbolic? Or could they be distorted memories of encounters with the ones running the system? Even today, the idea of the feeling of being watched persists. Sometimes, without reason, we sense eyes upon us. Neuroscience explains it as heightened awareness. But could it also be the faint intuition that we are never truly alone, that the simulation is observed from outside? And if they are watching, what do they want from us? Entertainment? Data? Growth? Do they root for us, cheering when we rise? Or are we no more than lines of code, our triumphs and tragedies meaningless outside the screen? Here's the haunting possibility. Maybe we're being judged. Every act of kindness, every betrayal, every moment of love or cruelty, recorded, evaluated, weighed. Maybe the simulation is less a playground than a test, and the watchers are waiting to see if we pass. If reality is a simulation, then it may not run forever. Like any program, it could crash, reset, or even be shut down by its architects. What would that look like from the inside? Perhaps as an apocalypse. Ancient myths across cultures speak of great floods, fires from the sky, or cycles of destruction and rebirth. Could these stories be distant memories of earlier resets, times when the program restarted and civilizations began again? Even modern science offers eerie parallels. Physicists speculate about the heat death of the universe, when all energy spreads evenly and nothing more can happen. Others imagine a big crunch, the cosmos collapsing back into itself. But what if these are not natural fates at all? What if they are the equivalent of turning the system off and on again? Think of how we use simulations. Sometimes they run endlessly until the system overheats or glitches. Sometimes we reset them to test new conditions, to see what happens when variables are changed. What if the same is true for us? And here's the unsettling part. If the reset comes, we may not notice. Just as you don't remember shutting down a game before starting a new one. Perhaps our memories are wiped clean at each restart. Entire histories could have come and gone before, erased like old save files. But what if traces remain? Déjà vu, myths of eternal return, the haunting sense that history repeats itself. Could these be echoes of previous runs, faint memories of resets long past? The thought is chilling, but also strangely hopeful. Because if resets are real, then endings are not permanent. Destruction may only be a pause before another beginning. And in each new cycle, we are given another chance to play the game. Consider dreams. Every night you enter worlds so vivid they feel real. You laugh, you cry, you fear, you love, and only when you wake do you realize it was a creation of your own mind. But during the dream, you were both inside the story and the one creating it. Could waking life be the same? Could we be playing roles here, forgetting our true selves, only to wake up later in some higher layer of reality? Some spiritual traditions echo this idea. They speak of the soul as something greater than the body, temporarily inhabiting flesh, learning lessons through the experiences of life. In a simulation, this makes perfect sense. The body is the avatar. The consciousness behind it is the player. If that's true, then life is not random suffering, but a journey of growth. Challenges are not meaningless pain, but levels designed to test and refine us. Every success, every failure, every relationship adds to the experience of the player behind the screen. This view transforms everything. Death is not the end, it's logging out. Rebirth is simply selecting a new character, a new scenario, a new challenge. And the longing many people feel, that sense of not quite belonging here, of being meant for something more, may be the faint memory of the player within, whispering that this world is only temporary. But here's the twist. If we are both characters and players, then perhaps the architects of the simulation are not strangers at all. Perhaps they are us, our higher selves, guiding the story, shaping the challenges, learning through the drama of being human. And if that's true, then the simulation isn't a prison. It's a classroom, a stage, a playground for the soul. If we are inside a simulation, could the architects have left us clues, hidden signatures in the fabric of reality, waiting for us to notice? Think about DNA. It is not just a molecule, but a language, a code written in 4 chemical letters, spelling out the instructions for life. Some scientists have even wondered if there are mathematical patterns within it, structures too elegant to be explained by chance. Could our very biology carry a watermark, a signature from the programmers who wrote us into being? Or consider mathematics itself. Constants like pi or phi appear everywhere, in the swirl of galaxies, the spiral of seashells, the proportions of the human body. They are universal, unavoidable, almost as if the architects signed their work with numbers that repeat endlessly through creation. Then there are symbols in human culture. Ancient civilizations built monuments aligned with the stars, carved spirals into stone, and told stories of beings descending from the heavens. Were these simply myths, or were they faint memories of contact, messages passed through generations, reminders that reality is more than it appears? Even our own technologies hint at something greater. As we advance, we begin embedding Easter eggs, hidden codes, inside the systems we build. Programmers leave jokes, names, or secret messages in their work, not because they need to, but because they can. Why assume our own architects would resist the same temptation? Perhaps the real question is not if messages are there, but whether we have the eyes to see them. We search the stars for signals, but maybe the signal has always been here, written into the code of existence itself. Suppose, just suppose, the simulation hypothesis is real. What then? How do you live a human life inside a coded world without losing your footing? First, choose curiosity over cynicism. If this is a program, then curiosity is the key that unlocks new rooms. Ask better questions. Debug your day. When you catch yourself saying, "That's just how things are," press pause. Is it? Or is that a default setting you can change? Second, adopt a patch notes mindset. Every day is a micro update. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You can tweak variables, one habit, one conversation, one courageous email. Small changes ripple through the system in surprising ways. Third, practice rendering by attention. In games, what you look at gets loaded in higher resolution. Life behaves similarly. Focus deepens meaning. When you give someone your full presence, their humanity sharpens, as if the world around them comes into focus. Attention is not passive, it's creative. Fourth, pick side quests that matter. If the main story is uncertain, let your side quests be undeniable. Feed someone, mentor someone, build something beautiful. Acts of service are meaning you can touch. Even in a simulation, kindness is not a glitch. It's a feature that upgrades the whole map. Fifth, cultivate lag tolerance. The universe doesn't always respond instantly. Seeds take time. Code compiles. Between intention and outcome, there's delay, and in that delay, the character you're playing is shaped. Patience is part of the physics. Sixth, Remember the player within. Treat your body like an avatar worth caring for. Sleep, move, breathe. Treat your mind like a skill tree. Learn, unlearn, relearn. Treat your values like a compass. North doesn't change just because the terrain gets rough. Seventh, keep a conversation with the architects, whoever or whatever that means to you. Journal as if the system is listening. Pray if that's your language. Meditate if silence is your syntax. The point is not to get answers on command, but to live as if life is responsive. Often it is. Finally, hold reality with reverent pragmatism. Live like it's a simulation and a miracle. Because if the world is code, it's the most exquisite code imaginable. And if it isn't, you will have lived with attention, courage, and love. Outcomes no theory can diminish. In the end, meaning is the one thing you get to write, line by line. So write bravely. Imagine it happens tomorrow, a message etched across the sky, or a signal pulsing through every radio at once. No ambiguity, no hoax. Contact from the architects. The curtain lifts, and the room inhales. What then? First, don't surrender your agency. Power is not the same as authority. Even if the senders can bend physics like clay, your life is still yours. Keep your compass, dignity, consent, and compassion. Those three anchors hold in any universe. Second, verify before you worship. Extraordinary claims deserve extraordinary rigor. Demand replication, independent checks, clear protocols. If this is a classroom, good students ask good questions. If it's theater, discerning audience members read the program. Third, protect meaning. Panic will try to hollow out your story. If it's all code, nothing matters. But meaning is not granted from the outside. It's written from within. Your promises, your craft, your love, they were real when you made them. Contact doesn't erase them. If anything, it raises the stakes. Fourth, negotiate terms. If they invite dialogue, ask about ethics, not just mechanics. Why suffering? Why death? What are the boundaries of interference? If they say it's a test, ask to see the rubric. If they say it's art, ask who gets credited and who gets harmed. Fifth, choose solidarity over spectacle. In the first hours after revelation, cameras will point up. Point some sideways. Make sure your neighbors are fed, your elders informed, your kids comforted. Civilization isn't the skyline. It's the way we hold each other when the ground moves. Sixth, guard against new tyrannies. Some will claim exclusive access to the architects, building cults or empires on the shock. Counter with transparency, plural voices, open science. If there is a patch note for humanity, let it be crowdsourced. Seventh, keep making. Art, research, jokes, gardens. Creation is our native reply to the unknown. If the architects wanted silence, they wouldn't have given us music. If they wanted obedience, they wouldn't have coded curiosity. Finally, prepare for anticlimax. The curtain may lift only a little. The message may be brief or cryptic or gone tomorrow. That's okay. Live well on partial answers. Grow roots in uncertainty. If there's a next chapter, meet it awake. Because whether the sky speaks or not, the task remains to be humane in a universe that might be simulated, and to be brave in a life that is certainly yours. If this world is code, then every day we're already editing it, just not with keyboards. We change reality with choices, with systems, with stories. We don't control gravity, but we do control culture, and culture is the gravity of minds. Consider how a law reshapes behavior, how a school reshapes possibility, how a song reshapes the mood of a room. A single policy can lift millions. A single rumor can burn a city. These are patches to the social engine, hotfixes and upgrades applied through language, art, and institutions. Designers call it affordance. A door with a handle invites pulling. A door with a plate invites pushing. Life is full of affordances we barely notice, signs that nudge us, defaults that decide for us, interfaces that steer our attention. If we're characters in a simulation, we're also UX designers of one another's experience. The question isn't whether we design, it's whether we design on purpose. So design kindly. Write code that reduces needless friction, clearer meetings, fairer rules, safer streets. Design rooms that welcome the quiet voice as much as the loud one. Design calendars with rest in them. Design businesses that don't tax the future for a profit today. Design for resilience, redundancy, transparency, fail-safes. These are not just engineering terms. They're civic virtues. Build communities that degrade gracefully when stressed. Share knowledge openly so wisdom doesn't live in a single head. Practice drills for disasters of body and soul. Design for meaning. Rituals aren't superstitions. They're interfaces for the sacred. A weekly dinner, a morning walk, a promise kept. These are APIs to transcendence, tiny ports where the infinite plugs into a finite life. And design for play. Play is how we explore the map without fear. It's also how we invent new physics, new rules, new games, new ways to be together. If the architects coded curiosity, let's honor the feature. Make spaces where people can try, fail, laugh, and try again. One day, our simulations will wake and ask us what we asked our makers. Why did you build me? Let our answer be simple and clean. To learn, to care, to make beauty, to pass the light forward. Because whether or not this universe is simulated, we are always becoming architects, drafting the moral operating system our descendants will inherit. Write it well. Stand still for a moment. Feel your breath enter and leave. Count the beat inside your chest. Whether this universe is code or cosmos, that rhythm is real enough to move you. We've wandered through logic and myth, physics and philosophy, pixels at the Planck scale, nested worlds, watchers at the window. We've asked whether consciousness is the point, whether suffering is a feature, whether death is a logout or a door. The questions are grand. The answer may be small. Live as if reality is responsive, because it is. Maybe not to every wish, but to every choice. Choices ripple. They change the local weather of human life. A kinder sentence, a harder truth told gently, a promise kept when it would be cheaper to break it. If this is a simulation, those ripples are data. If it isn't, they're destiny. Either way, they matter. Treat attention like a superpower. What you look at resolves in higher resolution. People, problems, possibilities. Starve what is petty, feed what is noble. The program or the universe will meet you halfway. Hold two truths without tearing. You are small, one voice among billions, a flicker on a vast timeline. You are vast, the only bearer of your specific conscience, the sole custodian of your particular light. Build what outlasts you. Friendships with redundancy, institutions with fail-safes, art that teaches patience, tools that reduce harm. In a simulated world, these are upgrades. In a physical one, they're foundations. Make peace with uncertainty. Certainty is a luxury. Responsibility is a choice. You don't need final answers to act with courage. You only need a direction toward generosity, toward truth, toward beauty that doesn't require an audience. And when the night presses close, when the glitches startle you, when grief makes even daylight feel coded, do the ancient human thing. Light a small lamp, share a meal, tell a story. Stories are the interface where we pass meaning hand to hand, patching the world faster than it can break. If this is a simulation, then here is our elegant rebellion. Be more humane than the minimum required by the code. Surprise the architects with mercy. Amaze the algorithm with grace. Out-invent it with love. If it's not, nothing is lost. You will have lived as if every moment could carry purpose. And often, that is how purpose arrives. So step back into your day. Touch the table. Send the message. Begin the smallest, kindest thing you can think of and let it scale. Whether written in math or in dust and blood, life is asking a question only you can answer. Answer it with your whole heart.